following Colorado's third preseason practice, we got our first opportunity of fall camp to talk to Coach Prime, and it's almost more of a show than a press conference, and I love it for the fans out there because he's got the one-liners and he really instills hope. There's at one point in there where he says, we're going to win, we're going to win, we're going to win. Yeah. I wish I could say it in different languages, we're going to win. So not shying away from expectations.
No, he's not. And, he even adds, do you think I worry? Do I look like a guy that worries about expectations? And, he doesn't shy away from them. He doesn't put a number on it, but he simply says, we're going to win. Don't worry about it. And so you have to like that attitude because we haven't had that around here in a long time. And certainly we haven't had the winning, but they got to go back it up. But you got to like the attitude.
Brian, there have been a lot of preseasons around here where the head coach has been positive 95% of the time throughout preseason camp. And sometimes we have a hard time getting a gauge on really where this team is. That's one of the things I've really appreciated about Coach Prime and this staff, especially with the behind-the-scenes footage that they put out there, that, day one, Charles Kelly gives the defense an F. I mean, this is access to stuff we didn't see previously. But today, Coach Prime comes in there, and he was in a great mood. He said that they had a great practice. They were down on the lower practice fields for the first time. And I like the fact that he comes in there and you go, oh, they actually did have a good day today, and you can take it to the bank. Whereas sometimes in the past, you really couldn't do that.
Yeah, it's transparency here, right? You know exactly what's going on. And, he was very open about, hey, our receivers, he goes, I wish you guys could have seen it because the receivers out there are pretty darn good. And, he talked about, he was asked about Dylan Edwards. He said, how good is he compared to expectations? Better. And, so this is a guy that's, he's, what he said, 10, 15 pounds he's gained. He's going to return kicks, all these things. So, you hear these things, but he'll tell you when they have things to work on too. Like, regarding offensive line, he didn't say they're going to be great. He said, I just hoping protect Shedeur. So it's things like that, it's not all, that 100% like, yes, everything is awesome, kind of like it was last year and in previous years.
He was asked about Charlie Offerdahl, and I'd love to just watch Coach Prime's reaction to that because it was pretty clear, again, behind-the-scenes footage from spring ball that he fell in love with that young man and called him Charlie Oftenball as a new nickname. He said, not a big fan of the mustache, but those of us that have been around for a while, we love those stories. We're excited about the Jimmy Horn Juniors of the world and Xavier Weaver and seeing what they brought to this program from just an overall talent standpoint. But to see some of those stories from a Trevor Woods that's back on the team has made a strong impression. Van Wells, Jared Christian, Lichenhand, and Charlie Oftenball.
Right. Yeah, I like the mustache actually, but yeah, it's clear. I mean, he mentioned a play that he made, one of the days this week, and he's clearly a guy that they like. And in that running back room, I don't know how much he's going to get a chance to play, but it's clear that if they had to put him out there, that I think that this staff would trust him and that they would feel comfortable putting him out there because of the impression he's made in spring ball and early in fall camp. But it's clear they like him.
They're not at 85 scholarships, which is pretty rare around here. Usually they're up on that number, and if they're not, they award it to a couple to a couple walk-ons. Maybe they can still do that. But Coach Prime did mention, hey, this is a long-term deal. We're looking for the future, and he's not really concerned about depth. Now, you asked about Zach Blackwood. I think there's two areas I would be concerned about depth, and it's backup quarterback given the inexperience behind Shedeur. And then also now kind of that interior of the defensive line. Now, some guys like Chance Main have bulked up that can maybe play some in there, but it's maybe not the ideal situation, and it's too late to really go to the portal, right?
Yeah, you would think so, but I mean, we have seen a little bit of movement, around the country this time of year. I would think it's too late, but maybe they do with him leaving. But 5 interior defensive linemen seems like a pretty low number. Not even just scholarship; that's just total because they don't even have any walk-ons in that area. So that seems like a low number. But hey, Coach Prime said. Why would I be concerned about numbers? We can't bring all these guys with us anyway. But the concern becomes if you have injuries there. And I like the 5 they have there, but if you have an injury or two there, then you really get depleted, and so that's where they could get in some trouble. But you hope that doesn't happen.
We've talked a lot about team chemistry. Just our last analysis video talked about. I think I mentioned that kids nowadays, because of social media and the way they grow up, they're just more apt to quickly develop relationships with new people. Coach Prime kind of mentioned something similar, but he said it's more of a situation where us older folks have these preconceived judgments. And I do think there's a lot of truth in what he was saying there about you start to worry about what other people think about you, and that changes the way you act. And his comment was, these kids just came here to ball, and that is kind of the sentiment you get when you do see the locker room footage from Bucky and from all those folks that have access in there.
Right, for sure. And you've talked about it before. Like, I think this generation gets along better and quicker than maybe our generation did, right? And we're old guys now, so maybe it's easier for them. But yeah, I mean, he mentioned that kids it's just easy for them these days, and so and maybe that's true. I mean, to your point, we are seeing that. I mean, and there was a day this summer that I went and did an interview with Darius Sanders, and we were in the weight room for a little bit, and you could totally see it. I mean, these guys, that's a total team. The competition, they were joking with each other. These are all guys that probably didn't know each other 2-3 months ago that look like a team, and so I think it comes together quickly. For me, that's a concern that I had back in March, April. That's less of a concern right now than other things for me right now.
Now we are just 3 practices in, so they haven't put on full pads yet. I think you want to talk about big plays being made, but I think from a general standpoint, you don't really find out about your football team, especially in the trenches, until you get into some of that live scrimmage action. So it's still kind of, I'm still finding myself, Brian, fighting a little bit, trying to have strong impressions based on anything I hear, just kind of taking bits and pieces here. What about you? Is there any general takeaway you have from the first 3 days here in Boulder with CU's preseason camp?
Yeah, and one thing that I think it was Sean Lewis mentioned the other day was, at this point it's a pillow fight, right? And so offensive line, you can't get anything from it. But the takeaway right now is kind of what we've known is that they clearly have skill guys, and you've seen it in the well-off videos, but also Coach Sanders was saying today, the receiver group, I wish you could see it. Dylan Edwards, and we know that they've got other running backs. The skill guys, I'm not worried about at all. I think that I legitimately think that when they talk about these guys, there's some legit talent there, that they're going to be loaded in the skill positions. It is, for me, comes down to what happens in the trenches.
Coach Prime was asked about the conference realignment shakeup, and we can't go too in depth on that right now because by the time we drive home and I get this analysis video up, who knows what news is going to break. But he had a nice little shot in there for a school up in the Pacific Northwest, didn't he?
Yeah, he was asked about, hey, looks like there's a couple schools that are moving on today already, and he kind of smiled and said, oh, the same schools that were talking about us, right? And you got to like that shot, because I thought the same thing when a certain coach in the Pacific Northwest took a shot at Colorado last week, and I was like, that's a weird comment when your school could be on the move here soon too, and his school's on the move now too, it appears. So yeah, it was kind of a funny shot. But he also added, why would I worry about any of that stuff right now? I'm trying to get ready for this year, and that's an expected answer.
All right, that's a wrap on the first. Well, it's not a full week, it's just 3 days, but we're going to have our next media access next Monday, so look for another analysis video then.